Okay, so let's take up one of the homework questions really quickly so that as a recap, a review of what we did yesterday. So number 38 right here, first off, that was a question mark. So that's why it was a little confusing for some people. Right? So that's actually a question mark, not a 7. Because if it was a 7, it didn't make any sense. So here to find the missing length, all you had to do was subtract the two lengths. So these are mixed numbers. What's the very first step you have to do? Convert it to improper fraction. Improper fractions are when numerators are bigger than the denominator. So 5 times 4, 20. 20 plus 1, 21 over 4. This is a common mistake that people do. Okay? Don't worry about this minus sign or negative sign. You are converting the fraction. Okay? So cover it up. You're doing 8 times 3 plus 3. So which gives you the 27 over 8. If you think of it as the negative, a lot of people did 8 times negative 3 plus 3, which gives you negative 21. Okay, and that's the wrong answer. So make sure you don't get tricked right here. You're converting the mixed number to a fraction, always the positive fraction. Okay. So now that we have this adding and subtracting fractions from grade 6 or 7, you guys know, what do you need? Lowest common denominator. So in this case, your lowest common denominator is 8. So changing from a 4 to an 8, you have to multiply this whole fraction by 2. So 21 times 2, 42. 4 times 2 gives you the 8. Now that my pizza is in 8 slices, I can subtract them. All right, so when I subtract, I just subtract the numerator and I get 15 over 8. But this is not a good enough answer. Right? I do have to change my improper fractions back to a mixed number. So I can do long division right here. Okay, 8 goes into 15 one time, with remainder of 7. So I get 1 and 7 8. If I write this as my final answer, will I get full marks on the test? What am I missing? I'm not so picky about therefore statements, but I'm picky with units. What's my unit here? Inch, right? If you write the wrong unit, you do get half a mark off. If you leave out the unit, you do get half a mark off. Okay, so don't lose these silly mistakes. So units. If you want, you could write me a therefore statement. That would be lovely. Okay, but not necessary. Okay, so that was what you guys did yesterday with the adding, subtracting fractions. On page 15, it's multiplying and dividing fractions. Which one is easier, adding, subtracting, or multiplying, dividing? Why?
Because you don't have to convert it.
No, you still have to convert. Right. So when you multiply or divide, you don't need a LCD. You don't need lowest common denominator. All you're simply doing is multiply across. So for right here, page 15, if I want to write that 5 and put it as a fraction, I can always put that 5 over 1. That's right. Any whole number, I can put it over 1. So now I'm just doing numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. I do not need to change this into 15 over 3. Right? If you do, at the end, you'll just have to keep reducing. All right, so then I get the 10 over 3, do my long division, I get 3 and 1/3. Okay, same thing right here. I can put that 2 over 1. So then when I multiply 5 times 2, I get 10. 6 times 1, I get 6. Reduce that, I get, I could either reduce first or I could do long division. Doesn't matter. So I did long division first and I got this 1 and 2/3. Good question. No, you don't. All right, especially because I know some calculators does it for you. All right, so you don't have to show this part. If you can just show from like here to here, that's fine. That's good. All right. This one right here. Let me just erase this. Oops. Okay. So E right here. What I did was I changed the mixed number into an improper fraction. So again, it's not negative 5 plus 3, it's just 5 plus 3, and then I stick that negative back on after. Okay, so I have this. So when I multiply across, I get 3 times negative 8, negative 24. 8 times 5, 40. Okay, I have an even number over another even number. So I know I can always reduce it by 2. So this becomes negative 12 over 20. And then I can reduce by 2 again. So then it's negative 6 over 10. And then negative 3 over 5 as my final answer. All right, this took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. All right, what was a faster way? Alternatively, Ryan, what could I have done?
Cancel both the eights.
Right. In my very first step right here, I see an 8 on the numerator, I see an 8 on the denominator. So if I divide both by 8, it reduces down to 1 and 1. And 3 times 1 gives me, 3 times negative 1 gives me negative 3. 1 times 5 gives me the 5. So whether you can recognize it right here and get to your final answer in one step, or it took you 3 extra steps, I'm totally fine with that. You got to the correct answer at the end. Right? So either way, perfectly fine. You just took an extra 10 seconds, if anything. Right? So whichever way you feel more comfortable. Okay. So let's try this one then. Can I do anything with the negative 2/3? Can I do anything with this? No. Okay, negative 2/3 is negative 2/3. It's its lowest term already. So I just wrote that. What about the 1 and 2/4? What should I do with that? Grace? Not mixed fraction.
Oh, yeah, cancel it out. So 1 over 2.
Okay. This is a mixed fraction. You want to do the other one.
Oh, yeah.
Improper. Yeah, improper fraction. So yes, 4 times 1 is 4 plus 2 is 6. So 6 over 4. And then here, for the 4 over negative 7, is there anything I can do with this fraction? Yeah?
Negative 7 and 12.
Yeah, put that negative on the top. So do you have to? No, but I just think it's a nicer form because it doesn't make sense to have a negative denominator. So I just rewrote this with a negative on the top. All right. Now that I look at this, I can reduce. Okay, so the 4 and the 4, I can reduce it to 1. And the 3 and the 6, I can reduce that to the 1 and the 2. So now when I rewrite it, it's basically a fraction like this. Negative 2 times negative 1 gives me positive 4. 1 times 7 gives me 7. And I get my final answer, positive 4 over 7. Yeah.
So on the test, if we keep the negatives in the bottom, we're not going to lose any.
No. As long as your final answer, you know that the negatives canceled out to become a positive, it's fine. Okay. All right, so that's multiplying fractions. Dividing. So dividing is very similar, but just one extra step. KFC. Now I'm getting KCF. Okay. What does KCF stand for? Keep, change, and flip. Right? So keep means I keep my first fraction. So my first fraction, I'm going to keep it as 2/3. Whoops. Okay. And then instead of dividing, I'm going to change it to multiply. And then I flip my second fraction. So instead of 5 over 8, it's now 8 over 5. Okay. So now this is just what we're doing for the last 5 minutes. Multiply top to the top, bottom to the bottom. I get 16 over 15. Long division. Okay. And I will get 1 and 1/15. That's my final answer. Okay. So let's try one more. I have 5/7 divided by 4/6. So keep the first fraction, 5 over 7. Instead of dividing, I'm going to change it to a multiplication. And then I'm going to flip my second fraction. So 6 over 4. Okay. Multiply across. I get 30 over 28. I can do long division or reduce it first. Doesn't matter. And when I do that, I get 1 and 2/28 or 1 and 1/14 after reducing. All right, so division is just the same as multiplying. You just have to make sure you do this extra step. Keep, change, and flip. Okay. Hey. Last example. Last example on page 17. Okay. When you see a question like this, I see, ooh, denominator over 7, denominator over 7. My first instinct is probably thinking, they have the lowest common denominator, and then I can add and subtract my numerator. But better yet, what can I do? Fionn?
Simplify.
Yeah, exactly. Negative 28 over 7, what's that? Negative 4. And then 35 over negative 7 is just negative 5. So I know that when you see a fraction, your first instinct is probably, oh, lowest common denominator. Right? But if you look carefully, it could actually be even simpler. Right? And so when you do the adding and subtracting, as we did on Monday, you'll see that you'll just get the final answer, negative 9. Okay? So similarly, right here, negative 30 over 5 is simply negative 6. And then 15 over negative 3, you get negative 5. So when you add them together, you get negative 11. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna give you guys about 10 minutes. Okay, 10 minutes. Work up to page 17, and then we'll move on to page 18. I know that some of you are already done up to page 17. That's great. Just relax for the next 10 minutes, and then we'll move on to 18. If you haven't, then I want you guys to try some multiplication and division questions.